So if you thought that scouring grade school math textbooks for any instances or instances of critical race theory being mentioned, critical race theory, of course, is a graduate level academic concept, was an alarming thing for the state of Florida to do, and perhaps even a little weird. Embrace yourself, because at some point in the next few weeks, the state of Florida is expected to release a series of decisions following a similar scouring of textbooks for their social studies curriculum. You know, classes where students are supposed to be taught about history, about American slavery, or as Ron DeSantis calls it, wait for it, the enslavement experience. Like it's like a ride at Disney. It's still unclear what percentage of the submitted textbooks will be rejected, although if the math example was any indication, it will be a lot. But already the Florida governor's Stop Woke crusade has shown a confused and chilling effect on the part of the publishers of the textbooks. From the New York Times reporting on this, quote, "In a sign of how fraught the political landscape has become, one publisher created multiple versions of its social studies material, softening or eliminating references to race, even in the story of Rosa Parks, as it sought to gain approval in Florida." Joining our coverage at the table, Basil Smikle, Democratic strategist and director of the public policy program at Hunter College. Also with us, former Congresswoman and MSNBC contributor Donna Edwards. Basil, I'm going to retrain myself not to feel surprise, but it is horrifying that we're having a fight about what the definition of slavery is and calling it an enslavement experience. That in and of itself, before you even get to the books, is a terrifying omen.
It is. You know, apparently at some point in Florida, black people are going to be reduced to pictures without stories.
Maybe, but I mean, I'm sure those won't get through.
Exactly right. It's not lost on me that Rosa Parks is a focal point here because she's often seen or talked about in the narrative of the civil rights movement as its catalyst. So to remove so much of this, the story around civil rights and to use Rosa Parks as sort of the focal point of that is so incredibly pernicious. Ron DeSantis, it's clear that he is taking a sieve to all that is within his control. He has not only influenced these hyper-local school board elections, but it is clear that he is now influencing outside interests. The African-American AP Studies exam was not a one-off. There's clearly a larger strategy here. And we have to talk about the role that not just the College Board, but also these textbook publishers play in how our kids are taught in K-12 education. They exert an extraordinary amount of influence, but they are also private entities that are not unwilling to bend to political pressure, which is clear that Ron DeSantis is going to push them on. Our culture is reproduced in schools, and he is bent on making sure that one cultural narrative is privileged over so many others.
But what is the cultural narrative of the enslavement experience? I mean, where is he pointing toward and rowing toward?
To me, to me, there are two things. One, there's a fear of the fear of the changes that this country is experiencing in terms of its diversity. If his political pathways, ossified as they are, in his thinking that he gets power and the people that he cares about gets power, if you tamp down on the agency of some communities and ramp up the agency of others, he is intent upon doing that with all the power in his tool belt. Having said that, we have to be mindful that he's not the only one doing it, that there are governors across the country that are like-minded, there are state legislatures across the country that are like-minded and will be doing the same thing. They're not running for president. He is, so he's going to attract more of the attention. But it is happening everywhere in this country. You
know, Donna, the politics, again, with Ron DeSantis are, they're not so good. I mean, the children he's seeking to brainwash and uneducate about the true history won't be voting for a long time. So even if they buy his whitewash, if you will, of American history, they're not going to be voting for many, many elections. And the kind of people that moved to Florida, if they left the Northeast during the pandemic, are not going to be drawn to the erasure of American history that is so widely known. The third thing is, who are you really whitewashing it for? You know, by 11, 12, kids have phones and they can learn the truth anyway. What is this?
Well, I mean, in the real context, I mean, first of all, Ron DeSantis wants to eviscerate public education, K to 12, but also at the college level. And I'm not really sure who he's playing to, because the majority of the American people actually support the idea of teaching a broad-based education to their children, making sure that they have a full understanding of history, that they develop as critical thinkers. And so Ron DeSantis is playing to this sort of narrow slice of people within the Republican Party, but it doesn't really speak to the larger context. And I have to say, looking at K-12 education, I'm going to put some onus on the book publishers, because I think that they have a responsibility to reject this idea of rewriting history and rewriting the social studies and history books. How do you teach Rosa Parks without talking about segregation? I mean, it is ridiculous. And so these companies have to, set aside their profits for a moment and not allow one state, one governor, one legislature to completely rewrite education for the rest of us.
Go ahead.
And I'd just say one other really important and dangerous trend. Since 2011, we've seen an increase in preemption, meaning that states are actually usurping local power to do more, to take more agency away from local communities. If you have African American and Latino families, leaders who've been trying to make the curriculum more and more inclusive over the decades of the civil rights movement, what's happening now is that a lot of leaders in the states are taking that local control away from those districts so that they can engage in this larger sort of whitewashing of curriculum. It's a very dangerous trend that actually has impacts in a lot of other policy areas. We need to be watching that, because it is something that, again, if you have folks moving from Northeast going to southern states, whether it's cities or suburbs, it means that red state governors and legislatures are trying to take power away from those communities.
It's so interesting, because they don't want the federal government to have it. They don't want the locals to have it either. It's this real sort of threading the needle for political purposes. We need both of you to stick around, because there's more. When we come back, how a new proposal in Florida could mean the end of black fraternities and sororities on college campuses there. We'll bring you that news next. We've sought to cover it all here. Textbooks in grade school in Florida, the AP history, AP courses in high school. Now aspects of black culture and unity and support on college campuses are under attack in Florida. The Hill reports this, quote, House Bill 999, or the Public Post-Secondary Educational Institutions, bans colleges from financially supporting any programs or campus activities that espouse diversity, equity, or inclusion, or critical race theory rhetoric. The language has led to concerns that black fraternities and sororities will be barred from Florida campuses under proposed legislation. We're back with Basil Smikle and Donna Edwards. Both are members of some of our country's oldest historical black fraternities and sororities that would be impacted by this Florida law. Basil's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. Donna is a member of Zeta Phi Beta. Donna, I know you're wearing your colors today, right?
Absolutely, I am. I mean, I feel like this move in Florida is a real assault, not just on black culture, but keep in mind, sororities and fraternities like mine and Basil's play an important role in communities and working with at-risk children, working with organizations like the March of Dimes, and supporting domestic violence shelters and programs, and promoting scholarships, millions of scholarships, dollars in scholarships that are offered by these fraternal organizations every year. And part of the ethos of culture on campuses all across the country, whether those are at HBCUs or they're at majority white institutions like the one I attended at Wake Forest University. And so I feel like this is another in the list of, growing assaults on black people that are being espoused by both the Florida legislature, but the acolytes of Ron DeSantis, playing to this very narrow slice of the American public and not pretending anymore that it isn't a racist play in this country.
Yeah, I mean, it is. DeSantis has almost accelerated the racism as the point.
Right. Right, he has. And to Donna's point, the common thread among these D9 organizations is you got to go vote, and we want our folk to go to college. It's about racial, social, economic uplift. Starting in 1906 with my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Martin Luther King Jr. was a member. Raphael Warnock, Senator from Georgia, is a member. So is the new governor of Maryland, Wes Moore. But countless others.
What threat do they pose to Ron DeSantis?
Well, the threat that they pose, including, by the way, the AKA in Washington, D.C., Kamala Harris, our vice president, the threat that they pose is that, number one, you're going to see you have seen and will continue to see folks that are part of organizations that have this clear civil rights mission to go out and make sure that our folks are informed, that we're engaged, and that we're mobilized. And what he's afraid of, as are some others, and again, many others are, but what he's trying to do is use all the levers of his bureaucratic power to be able to say, I'm going to remove as much as possible all of the opportunities that these individuals and these organizations have to collectively engage. It's dangerous, it's pernicious. I'm not even sure that it's legal at the end of the day.
I mean, it's clearly, there's nothing in this bill about targeting predominantly white sororities or fraternities.
I mean, that's exactly right. So when you look at the role that these organizations have on campus, that we have had on campuses for over 100 years, even at the embryonic stages of the civil rights movement, to a point in 1963 when Iota Phi Theta was chartered to be firmly integrated into the civil rights movement. These are organizations and so many others on college campuses that are about bringing together national change and engaged in conversations about how to promote the diaspora. Exactly right.
It's incredible. It's incredible. We'll stay on it. Sorry for my tickle coming back. Basil and Donna, thank you so much for joining us today.